Together is a new body horror movie directed by Michael Shanks. In his film debut, it stars Alison Brie and Dave Franco as a couple. They're a real-life couple. I've always loved these actors, and it's honestly really good to see comedy actors kind of doing drama. This is more of a horror movie. And, honestly, I didn't love this movie. I think there's a bunch of interesting ideas presented here, but overall, it wasn't that satisfying. The movie follows this couple, Dave Franco and Alison Brie. They move to the countryside. They at first live in New York City, but they move out. Alison Brie gets a teaching job. Dave Franco is kind of this aspiring musician. He's always recording music, but he's kind of not employed. He's not really doing anything. So there's some friction in their marriage, and enter the weird science fiction element, which kind of feels like something out of Color Out of Space. I don't know if you guys know that H.P. Lovecraft story. It's been adapted into movies a couple times. There was recently a Nicolas Cage adaptation. There was also a movie, Die Monster Die, with Boris Karloff. That story follows this asteroid that crash lands on this farm, and it starts to mutate the cattle on the farm and the people who go there. There's all these horrible things that happen to them. And this movie starts with this really creepy cold open where these dogs are in this countryside and they find this pool of water and they lick it up, and the two dogs, you see one guy who owns the dog coming in the middle of the night into a barn, and he sees the dog for a flash. It looks like something horrible's happened. So there's this idea presented that in this countryside home where Dave Franco and Alison Brie moved to, there's this creepy cavern, this pool of water underneath that if you touch it, it can mutate you. And if you go near someone, you kind of start to mutate with them. And then it begins to explore this idea of relationships and of this couple who aren't really sure what they are. They're not sure if they want to be married or if they're partners or boyfriends. They've been dating for a while. And I feel like there's a lot of interesting ideas at play, but they never, honestly, for me, really come together in a satisfying way. I think this movie looks great. It sounds great. The actors are awesome. But it's really this weird kind of middle ground where it isn't really a full-on body horror movie, a David Cronenberg movie, or even The Substance last year, which I think found this perfect territory of satire. This movie isn't really satirizing anything. And also, in a post-Substance world, to me, it just genuinely feels a little more boring because what it has to say about this couple isn't anything new or really interesting. It's just this kind of simple story about this, pretty young couple who don't really get along, and now they have to kind of work through this strange body mutation happening to them. And the gore and the body horror isn't anything crazy. It's just, to me, just kind of dull. There's comedy in here, but the comedy doesn't really mesh well with the horror. There's nothing too over the top or any ironic black comedy that would mesh really well with the gore and really messed up body horror. The body horror isn't that crazy. And I think a movie like The Substance had this really unique visual language. This really just looks kind of like a low-budget movie. It's mostly shot in this cabin and, this house and around the woods in that area. It's absolutely fine, I think, for a film debut. Michael Shanks does really try and create this world, and I think it is immersive. It's just not as interesting as a lot of other horror movies. And in an era of this kind of overbloated prestige horror and evolved horror, this really does try to feel like, one of those movies. And of course, it's distributed by Neon, who's done a lot of horror, like Infinity Pool. This just isn't a movie that I feel really has its own unique identity. Even its final shot, to me, I remember kind of when it ended, I thought, that's it. There's just a kind of simplicity and safeness to it. It's really polished, which is nice, but it's just not this memorable type of body horror film. I really think there's a lot of potential here, though. The two actors are great. I would love to see Alison Brie and Dave Franco do more horror together, but I feel like they do need to push a little out of their comfort zone. I feel like this is a bit too safe. And there's also this whole subplot going on with Damon Harriman's character, which I didn't really love. I feel like it's too exposition heavy. I really didn't strongly dislike this movie, but I just wanted to like it so much more. It just feels like one of these really well shot and, cut together movies that just has a kind of repetitive story there's these kind of shallow themes and explorations of communication in a relationship, and just overall these relationship tropes you might get in horror movies. But it's not bad, so let me know what you guys thought of Together. It's competently made, but ultimately not something I'd strongly recommend watching. But let me know what you guys thought of the movie, and thank you so much for watching this review. See you in the next one.